quickly through how I've built my Apprentice for use of the Flamethrower Uber, and this is mostly an accompaniment video to my video about using Flamethrower Towers instead of Elemental Chaos Traps on the Nightmare 4 Gates of Dragonfall Incursion. This is primarily aimed at people who watch that video and want to use Flamethrower Towers and replicate how I've done it, or people who have chosen to go for the Flamethrower Uber instead of the Elemental Chaos Uber, or just want to do something different. I'll start out by saying I don't recommend going the Flamethrower Uber first. Elemental Chaos Traps still do a better job for physical resist lanes, but in a pinch, Flamethrower Towers can work. In a separate video, I'll go through the pros and cons of Flamethrower Towers. So to get started off, I want to look at the spheres. Obviously, the first sphere you need is the Flamethrower Uber sphere. That's pretty much core to this build. Can't have Flamethrower Towers without the Uber. I'll go back to my small spheres. I start with the Defense Rate sphere. Much like I've said before, this will be your biggest increase in DPS. I use Defense Power Sphere, and I use the Defense Crit Chance Sphere. I do not recommend the Flamethrower Range Sphere, and I'll go over why in just a minute. For my medium spheres, I use 2 of the 10% Apprentice Defense range, so you get 20% bonus range, which is pretty significant in the end. And finally, for the large sphere, you use the extra flame damage, gives you a 25% chance to deal 40 extra damage to one of your Flame Burst or Flamethrower Towers targets. To go quickly over the stats are very similar to my normal Apprentice Frosty build. Max defense power, max defense speed, max defense range, and finally, as a little bit of min-maxing, I put 15 and 15 into the defense health and defense crit damage stats, as those are the soft caps. Your Flamethrower Towers will take a lot of damage. That little bit of extra health helps, and so does a little bit of extra DPS. For my inventory gear, I pretty much use the same gear as my Frosty Apprentice. All the 4 main pieces are all the same. They have Frosty power on them. The only difference is the weapon. I've chosen a weapon that has a higher defense power than my Chilling Touch. That was all that I was looking for. I've been told that there is a staff that has Pyromania on it, but I have yet to be able to find it, and I'll go over Pyromania right now. On your relic, this is a stat that increases Flame Burst tower damage by 7.17%. For me, this works out to be about a 700 DPS increase, so it's pretty significant. I would hunt one of these pieces out immediately once you find that you're going to be using Flamethrower Towers. I've been able to progress without using this, but it's much easier when I have this trinket on. So finally, I want to go back to how I chose my small spheres and why I'm not using the defense range sphere. So to do this, first we're going to look at your regular Flamethrower Tower right here. When I look at the range, it goes out to right about here, the start of this little carpet. So I go into my gear, or my spheres, and put on the 4%, or is it 2%? Yes, 4% extra range. You'll see that difference, pretty much nothing. You really do not gain any usable range out of that. That's so little that I don't think it's worth using that sphere. I think getting a little bit more DPS out of that 3% increase chance to defense crit is much better. Maybe you like this more and you can go with it, but I don't recommend it. That about wraps it up for just how I built my Apprentice. In another video, as I said, I will go over what I think about Flamethrower Towers, how to use them, and what their weaknesses and benefits are.